our baby, but she's
All right, we're going to go ahead and call the Southern Nevada Enterprise Community Board meeting to order. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Chair Neal.
Here.
Vice Chair Steele.
Here.
Member Horsford. Excused. Member Creer.
Here. Sorry, I'm late.
Thank you. Member Monroe Moreno.
here.
Member Scott.
Here.
Member McNeil.
Here.
Member Garcia Anderson. Excused. Member McCurdy. Thank you, Chair. You have a quorum.
Thank you. So, Madam Secretary, we are in compliance with the open meeting law?
Yes, we are. Thank you.
All right, great. So now what we will do is go to agenda item number 3. We will open up for public comment. If there's anyone here for public comment, you would come to the mic, state your name. You have 2 minutes to share with us any good news or bad news if you would like. Is anybody coming up for public comment?
Madam Chair,
Yes?
I'm going to make a public comment from here. Today's a tough day for the city. I'm not sure if you all knew or not, but one of our colleagues who has staffed, whose team has staffed SNCC for a number of years, passed away this weekend. And that's our executive director for EUD, and Ryan Smith. And our entire city is in mourning for a gentleman who has done so much, and since I've been here, he leaves behind a wife and also 2 young children. And like everybody in the city is really torn up about this. So just wanted to acknowledge that, and hopefully those who have known him will keep him up and his family in prayer. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Member Creer. We send our prayers for his family. Ms. Duncan. Well, no, what's your...
It's still Duncan.
Oh, okay.
It'll be Duncan for life.
Okay.
I do have the Reed attached to it, but that's,
All right, so I'll do Duncan Reed.
Thank you. And yes, thank you, Chairman Neal. I continue to struggle with how all of our government agencies are interacting with one another and giving information to the community. We have all the federal agencies, county departments, and city departments in Las Vegas and North Las Vegas trying to reach our community with information. And as you can see, a lot of people don't know that this meeting is going on here today. And I have made several trips to this committee asking you to find funds for virtual community action planning, because it will allow us as a community to engage the government to be able to communicate better with the community. And this is a process that's being introduced to us by USC Professor Michael Rendler, who teaches the Safe Cities program at USC. And this program is a UCLA curriculum to teach us and the government how to better communicate with each other. So we would respectfully request to be placed on the agenda so that we could explain to you how this process works. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Duncan Reed. Is there anyone else here for public comment? Seeing no one, we will go ahead and close public comment, which is, we have one more? Okay. So it's not proper for me to say anything about outreach. However, I did get a series of flyers printed from MLK Parade forward that I've been putting out in this space. So we'll continue to do so. State your name for the record.
Good evening, Board. My name is Ernest Mackey. I wasn't expecting to come here today, but I was invited, and I just want to say we just got out of a meeting earlier today, and like Ms. Duncan said, we need some help around this city. We just got through fighting an issue that's going on around all these schools in the city, and all kids are being targeted. We need some help out there. They already stopped the parents from coming to the school, having school meetings and everything. We have to come together, and the city here, this board, need to put out some kind of brochure to help these parents out. We are the only community that's not acting as a community. The only one. We have homeless everywhere, our people, mostly our people. Things need to be done. Not sitting back, holding a seat and saying, we got this seat, we got this, we got that, we trying to do this. It need to get done. I'm making a change. They brought me out the house, I'm making a change. I'm going to the schools, and I'm getting things done there. We need people on these boards to get a committee or someone up here to represent and do it also, to show face that things are gonna get done and make that change. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Is there anyone else here for public comment? Seeing none, we will close public comment, which is agenda item number 3. We will go to agenda item number 4 for possible action. Approve the final minutes, which are from the regular meeting from November 6, 2023. Has everyone had a chance to see those minutes? If so, I will take a motion to approve those final minutes. So I have a first from Commissioner McCurdy.
Second.
A second from Assemblywoman Monroe Moreno. All in favor of approval of the minutes from November 6th?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing no opposition, the minutes, final minutes from November 6, 2023 are approved. Thank you. So now we will move to agenda item number 5, which is a report from Ms. Karen Shong.
Thank you, Chair Karen Schnog, for the record.
Excuse me, Deputy City Clerk Vanessa Chavez-Holman. Chair, we do need you to read the item as read on the agenda, please.
Okay, so agenda item number 5 is a report by Karen Schnog, Management Analyst 2 for the City of Las Vegas regarding the summary budget status report for the Southern Nevada Community Project Fund.
Thank you, Chair Karen Schnog, for the record. The Southern Nevada Community Project Fund currently has $7,132.05.
Thank you. And any questions on how we got an additional $2,000? That's pretty surprising. Okay. So with that, we will go ahead and close agenda item number 5 and open up for agenda item number 6. We have a presentation by Michael Yoder, who is Workforce Development Division Manager, Nevada Department of Health and Human Services, regarding Project 354, Workforce Development and Outreach. Mr. Yoder.
Michael Yoder for the record. Thank you for having me today, and appreciate the opportunity to be here and speak about some projects that our division and our integrated workforce development partnerships are working on, have been working on for several years. And again, I'm Michael Yoder, Workforce Development Division Manager for the Division of Welfare and Supportive Services. Slide 1, right off the bat, I'm going to talk about Project 354. Project 354 is based on 2017 legislative session Assembly Bill 354, introduced by Senator Neal, now Senator Neal, which sought to reduce the disproportionately higher unemployment rates in underserved communities, specifically for African Americans aged 16 to 24. And that was launched focusing on the zip codes of 89030, 031, and 106. And what was seen back then, and I'm sure it's probably still the same, we haven't looked at data very recently, but when you had about a 2% unemployment rate, that demographic was double. So if there was 2, it was 4 for that particular age group, that demographic. And our mission was to get together as a coalition of workforce development system partners, which included the Division of Welfare, our Workforce Connections, our Southern Workforce Board, Title I, and many other partners listed here on the slide. And we expanded after the launch to any other zip code where we can identify the same type of condition. So I facilitated the project with Workforce Connections, Jeremy Pickett at the time, and we pretty much authored a lot of the service methods, and what we did was design a strategic outreach and development technique, and I'll explain a little bit more on that on the next slide. Partnered service approach, braiding funding, for example, for non-degree credentialing programs. At Welfare for Workforce Development, my mission, working there for 18 years, was not just to get my clients off of welfare, but permanently out of poverty. So we went into this, like my unit does with all our workforce development initiatives, to try and offer careers and a future to our clients. And we brought that approach to this project. So we braid funding for non-degree credentialing programs. We have employer relations with Dieter as our lead, provide supportive services. We held resource and hiring events specifically for Project 354. Provide ongoing wraparound services from intake till job retention. So once someone gets hired, we continue to follow them and make sure they're going down the right path and they've kept their job and they get support through those first few checks and ongoing. We took an all projects targeting approach. So this is something that I brought to the table that I think is very important. A lot of workforce system partners get together and they'll do an event for this initiative, and then they go back to their silos and do work as usual. I think the all projects target approach for this initiative, which I leveraged to this and my unit continues to do to this day. If we get a school or if we have an employer that comes along and says, we have a need for X number of employees, or a school saying there's a high demand in software developing, we make sure that every project, when we come back home to our silo, we do a focused, targeted outreach by sending thousands of emails, text messages, flyers to those folks in those target zip codes that we are working on this project. So if the opportunity, we also send a questionnaire, a sort of workforce development survey, so that if the project that we're promoting, if they're not interested in manufacturing, we have a list of items they can check off and tell us, what are you interested? Get a hold of us. We want to work with you one-on-one. So we take a lot of pride in making sure that we continue to go into those communities, not just for that one day that we had a Project 354 event. So that sums up the participant outreach and development sort of ideology. It's client-centric, one person at a time, not just trying to get numbers and funneling people into an opportunity and not caring about whether it's right for them. My unit uses an ad hoc report, and we can reach out to tens of thousands of SNAP clients or TANF clients across the state to send and promote these opportunities. I talked about the survey. We do a advanced screening and assessment for each individual. to make sure that they're choosing the right path and finding their calling. We, in welfare, unlike our other system partners, can talk to our clients about barriers. You might go to a regular workforce development unit somewhere in the system, and they sit down and ask basic questions. We ask, what's going on in your life? What are some things that you have going on right now that might prevent you from being successful before we even launch their path? So we remove barriers, and we continue to work with our clients all the way through to the end. We use academic assessment tools, soft skills and life skills assessments, and training if needed. And we use career exploration tools like My Next Move, ONET, and career personality assessment tools to make sure that our clients are reaching their full potential and maybe discovering things that they never thought of doing or that they didn't think they would have the opportunity or be right for. We provide supportive services all along the way. Our agency can provide bus passes, 30-day bus passes, gas reimbursement. We have the ability to write DMV vouchers to get folks their cars registered, pay for up to 3 or 6 months of car insurance if they have a car, state IDs, driver's license. We provide childcare so that our clients have childcare for whatever activity they're in. Tuition for TANF recipients, we can pay up to $5,000 per participant for the TANF program, and for SNAP ET, if you're a SNAP only client, we can make you a SNAP employment and training. And we have contracts with, down in the south here, mainly CSN to pay for any non-degree credentialing program if you're a SNAP client. And then we, obviously a lot of classes are over $5,000. We spent hundreds of thousands of dollars in 2023 going and getting money like federal funding, like Sandy Grant and Title I to braid funding with us if a class is $10,000, $13,000. So my team is trained to go out and find that funding above and beyond the $5,000 if it costs more. We provide clothing, books, supplies, laptops, if folks need them for both school and work. And we do job placement. We have OJT programs and work experience programs with our Title I partners, and employer relations and job retention services, as I had mentioned in the beginning. These are some of the events that we had when we kicked off Project 354. We went to Doolittle Community Center, Matt Kelly Elementary School, New Beginnings Ministries, Desert Rose Adult High School, and multiple high schools all throughout those zip codes that I mentioned. So before I open it up for questions, I got just 2 small other mentions of what we're working on, a couple of other pieces of legislation. Senate Bill 317 is an act that authorizes a provider of homeless services to authorize the use of a provider's address as a temporary mailing address for a person experiencing homelessness. A lot of times if they don't have addresses, they can't get things done. My unit, our homeless to housing unit, which sits beside our workforce development unit, went through the entire state looking for homeless service providers, and we posted a list of those at that link there, dwss.nv.gov, home, features, resources. So we got a whole list there that is on our website, and we're promoting this list to our partners, so that anybody who in our workforce system or other CBOs, community-based organizations that we're partners with, know about the list and can share that with individuals in that situation. And the last thing I was going to mention was Assembly Bill 135, which is an act relating to homelessness as well. And those things all tie into workforce development in some way, shape, or form at some point. And part of this bill was on the responsibility of the DMV. What welfare did was we met with the DMV to see if we can provide IDs to our clients who are homeless or in danger of becoming homeless in some of the homeless provider situations that we're partnered in, like down at the courtyard. And we're still working that out, but the best we could do at this point in time was create a priority expedited process. I asked the DMV, can you give us names and contact numbers at every DMV So we could send our client there and get them to the front of the line, priority service, to get their ID. And they set that up with us, and so we have a list of those locations and contact folks that we gave to all of our staff. And we probably should share that with partners too as well. I just want to find out first if we're able to do that. But that's about, that concludes, oh, did I not? Oh, I was just going the wrong direction. I think that was it. That does conclude my presentation. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Mr. Yoder. Councilman Creer.
Thank you, Mr. Yoder. Thank you, Madam Chair. So I have been in City Council for 6 years. Unemployment, I represent Erica Ward 5, which is downtown, historic West Side, Lone Mountain. Unemployment in our ward is about 15%. It's getting a lot better since we've been in office, but we have a number of initiatives that we've started. Our Strong Future Technology Center, where we're training our youth on STEM. We're building a workforce development center in conjunction with the College of Southern Nevada, which is going to train folk in manufacturing, construction, information technology, and healthcare. We have, working with Workforce Connections on a one-stop. We've built a library which is going to have workforce in it. So we have a number of initiatives that can take place. And I can tell you, and I'm going to say this, and I could be completely off base because I'm going to say what I know, I just don't know. I've never heard in any of my conversations with my team, my staff, or anybody that says what the state, what your department is doing to assist us and to help get those initiatives up and running and to get going. And so I see the things that you say that you're doing. I'm just unaware of where and how you're doing it. Are you like a reimbursement of so would like our workforce team, let's say our homeless courtyard, apply for the resources that you're offering? Do you guys do standalone facilities where people can walk in? Like, and you said you did these job fairs at the schools?
Yes.
Okay.
So
how does this work? How do you guys
yeah,
operate?
that's a great question, and a lot of people are confused after I explained it 1,000 times in the workforce system because it is abstract. We're directly under the Division of Welfare and Supportive Services, so I have staff that can sign people up through and take them through the application for SNAP, TANF, medical. And our unit was created only a few years ago, well, it's about 6 years now, I guess, because of the WIOA law. Welfare became a mandatory partner under the WIOA law. We're actually, TANF is Title IV. So I was just a welfare case manager for 10 years, then I was a supervisor, and they said, we have to work with the workforce system, find out what we need to do. And as soon as I got together with the workforce board, we were on everything. So we're directly Division of Welfare, and I have TANF workers, SNAP workers, and we were born out of the training and employment and training under TANF. And started developing a true workforce development unit. So we have no mandatory entry point. When you go on to welfare and you get TANF approved for SNAP, clients are not mandated to work with us. We reach out and ask them, will you work with us? We want to get you a career.
So all your clients are people who are on welfare?
Well,
or SNAP recipients?
We won't turn anybody away who's in poverty. And there's a lot of people out there who might not even be on SNAP who we try to find those folks and get them signed up.
So like our team at the city who does a lot of workforce development, our team, some of them are here, they would reach out. If someone walked into our courtyard, then they would know then to apply for your services, and then we're sort of a pass-through for your services? Is that how that works?
Yeah, that work like that would be what we consider a reverse referral. If they're not on SNAP, but they're in poverty, we'll get them signed up for it. If they have children in the home, we'll get them signed up for TANF. If there's some reason that they're ineligible, we're still going to try to work with our system partners to get them to the right place where the funding is for what they're looking for. So we don't turn people away if they're not eligible for SNAP or TANF. But yeah, we can take referrals, get them signed up for actual programs, and then we'll work with them on the workforce development end immediately. There's no application for the workforce development part. We'll just start working with them the day we meet them.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions? Go ahead.
Hit the button.
All right, can you hear me? Yeah. Hey, how are you? Just two questions. I want to know just how effective, or what matrices do you guys have in place to know how effective your outreach is? I kind of second Councilman Creer, because I just never heard of you guys, and I want to know, as far from a public standpoint, with your marketing channels, like, how effective has it been?
Yeah, it's something, we lack the tools that we need to be more effective. We don't have any advertising dollars. We rely completely on our partners and me promoting that we're here in the workforce system. Reverse referrals, like Councilman Creer, Ward 5 works. I know who you are. and we're just out there. It's the emails, we send thousands of emails for every opportunity that we've got going on using an ad hoc report. So those are all TANF and SNAP clients, and we may end up with 20 people out of those thousands of emails that come forward to really go through this process with us. So we're working on building, I've asked if we could use social media, and we're working with our public information officer right now to build some social media, and because we're a state organization, we have to be very careful with that, and it's kind of a lot of red tape to go through, but we're working on that.
But besides social media, so I was paying attention to your marketing channels, and all of them seem to be contactless as far as person to person. So do you guys have any dollars as far as boots on the ground, actually meeting individuals, seeing what's going on with them, and doing canvassing that way versus just emails, letters and things of that nature?
Yeah, for example, we've contacted schools in all of these zip codes, both actually in northern Nevada and southern Nevada, and we've tried to visit every high school, for example, in all the zip codes that we mentioned, anywhere where we've, Project 354 initiative overlaps. And every year we ask the schools to come out and visit, and we've had hundreds of kids interested in coming to work for the state of Nevada. And then those high school seniors who are graduating, we say, hey, we're not here just to talk about coming to work for us. We'll try to find a career path for you. If you're not ready for college, let's talk about a career and all those things that are important once you graduate high school and are going out to pay bills and all those other great things that high schoolers should be thinking about after graduation.
And with that outreach, are you guys getting participants? Are people actually coming and signing up for your program once they like percentage-wise? Can you just throw out a number?
I don't have the data in front of me. We're not doing big numbers in the high schools. We hired ourselves 6 last year. So we got about 6 high school graduates that are working for welfare, and I don't remember the exact data, but like 4, I want to say 4 or 5 have promoted already from a clerical entry level to family service specialist case manager. And we're hoping this year to see bigger numbers. We're doing virtual job fairs with the high school kids. We get them to give us their contact information after we visit the school, and we keep calling them after we left to bring them back for more developing. Let's work on your resume. Let's do interview, mock interviews and talk about career development. So it's boots on the ground big time, not just kicking out flyers. We've got events planned, visiting high schools. We jump on any job fair that we can get on that we see advertised.
And this is just my last question. As far as the career paths that you guys are helping individuals with, are any of them has technology based? Prompt engineering, security, cybersecurity, anything like that's gearing them towards the future?
Absolutely. We've got folks that have gone through cybersecurity classes with us, software developing, MT1 certification for manufacturing, because we've got Crown Cork and Seal that moved to Nevada, and a couple other manufacturers in North Las Vegas. Absolutely. Tech fields, medical, dialysis tech.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you turn?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't think we need to go into it right now, but I think for the next time you come before the board, it will be incredibly helpful for us to know of the number of kids that you've seen over these last 5 to 6 years and the level of partners that you've been able to work with to host some of these career fairs. What percentage of folks who were contacted showed up, and what percentage of those who showed up received the job? You don't have to talk about it right now, but I think that would be something that would be helpful for us to know.
Okay, thank you for that. So thank you, Mr. Yoder, because number one, this was about knowing what's going on, and that workforce welfare has a workforce division, number one. Number two, I can give direct instances where the reverse referral has happened in terms of the homelessness crossover. There has been, even just recently, maybe it was 2 months, homeless, pregnant, well, brand new baby, 2 weeks old, 2-year-old, got funneled into welfare with Yoder, triggered services because they were living in the car, and then we triggered services. She was able to get her the liquor card, what is it called, to work at 7-Eleven. TAM card, childcare, and they worked on getting them short-term housing to be in a hotel for a minute, and then they worked on getting their rental assistance so they could stabilize. And so typically, if I send something through, it's triaged immediately. Second instance where there was she didn't, I mean, and this person doesn't have a high school diploma. There was another person that had no high school diploma. They were able to get her a GED, get her into her GED classes. She had a snowball effect where her car insurance had not been paid. They were able to get the car insurance paid for 3 months, which stabilized her, get her into a position, get her attached to, she was starting to make like $15 an hour. She had been working at some job for $12 an hour. She had 2 kids and 1 on the way. Her parents couldn't take her in or wouldn't take her in, and welfare immediately wrapped around her and triaged and helped her to stabilize. And now she has she has her GED, she has her own apartment, healthy, and she has not ever had to come back through the system. You did forget to mention that you just started to partner with the Aviation Institute, right? And so that's another partner that they've brought on. So I just wanted to bring up, like, I've seen what they've been able to do and the doorway in which it goes under, and they work with Workforce Connections because that's how the relationship started. So I just wanted to add that context because I've seen it and I use them a lot when I have a person that has 6 barriers because they're able to immediately address and then bring in as like a swarm the different partners that can help stabilize that person and move them forward. And so I just wanted to add that context. All right, thank you, Mr. Yoder.
Thanks for having me today.
All right, so next we will go to agenda item number 7, which is a presentation by Tiffany Tyler Garner, who is Youth Development and Social Initiatives Manager for the City of Las Vegas regarding the City of Las Vegas workforce efforts within the overlapping Southern Nevada Enterprise Community Board District.
Good afternoon. Dr. Tiffany Tyler Garner for the record. Thank you for the opportunity to share the City of Las Vegas's efforts in workforce development. Today I am joined by our Workforce Development Officer and the Director of our division, Dr. Tammy Malich, our Director, and our Workforce Officer, Senior Julie Mitchell. For your consideration, I'll provide a brief overview of all of our efforts. I think it's important to note that there is a significant investment underway as it relates to workforce development in the city of Las Vegas, whether it's an expansion of our touch in terms of the populations that we are serving, or a deepening of our investments, including capital projects, or an expansion of our partnerships. There is a strong commitment to ensure that individuals have not only viable career pathways, but pathways that lead to independence and prosperity for residents. So beginning with this first slide, you will note that the workforce development efforts began in earnest initially as an expansion of an existing youth development program, an exemplary program that centered around leadership development, youth development. As a fourth pillar, there was a decided effort to make investments in career development. What had been historically unpaid internships, soft skills screening has now expanded to include not only stackable credentialing for youth, paid internships, but also on-the-job training and ongoing professional development for youth as a part of our work here. It's also important to note that there is a significant focus not only on strategic planning as it relates to partnering as an ecosystem around workforce development, but also a significant expansion of partnerships. Having the benefit of hearing the previous presentation where there was some discussion about exactly what does the WIS do in terms of the citizens that we serve, I'm pleased to share with you that they are also partnering us at the historic Westside School, where they have co-located staff that come out weekly to provide the services that they listed on the slide, that they are also joining as a member of a Disconnected Youth Coalition, where we've been meeting over a year to reduce the number, 444,000 youth in our community that are what we describe as disconnected, that's 16 to 24, not in work, not in school, where we have found that 58% of those individuals are actually individuals that have graduated from high school and not have taken the next step. So encouraged to hear the inquiry from our councilman because it's a reflection of our commitment to making sure that every resident in our community has an opportunity to provide for themselves and lead in their community. Going to the next slide, I just want to note that we recognize that this notion of getting folks on a viable career pathway and changing the trajectory for their communities and homes is not one that happens in isolation or a silo. And so you'll note that in recent years, our partnerships or the network of individuals that we call to the table to leverage resources has significantly expanded. Whether it's Vegas PBS, where there was an ARPA grant awarded specifically to scholarship individuals in every course on their catalog, or the ways that we are partnering with NCHI and CSN to establish training centers in communities where there is great benefit to the education outcomes there, or entities like DWSS or Workforce Connections. We are strategically looking at career development from inception to completion, which means not only just getting folks into stopgap employment or entry-level work, but we are looking at what the training pathway, employer relationship, and foundation in terms of skills is all along the continuum. Having had the benefit of starting as a department that began with pre-K and early education and other efforts, and having expanded, we now have an opportunity to partner around from cradle to career around the notion of what soft skills development is needed to ensure that folks can take care of themselves and empower their community and lead in their households. And so you'll note, as a part of this discussion, we are even partnering internally, whether it's our Economic and Urban Development Division, where we've had this profound loss today, or our Human Resources Division. We are looking at what workforce development is, from soft skills development all the way to upskilling, to ensure that not only folks get a leg in the door, but also advance in employment in ways that empower them to even establish their own businesses, because entrepreneurship is also another workforce development strategy that we are fully supporting here as a part of our work here at the city. Next slide. And so I want to give you a brief overview of some of the initiatives you may have heard alluded to today, but also some others that are underway and with tangible progress in each area in the last 36 months alone. And so you will note here that the West Side Employment and Training Center, as well as the East Side Employment Training Center, our distinguished councilman noted that we're doing that in partnership with CSN, and it will create training pathways in 4 sectors, high demand sectors in our community. We have solicited support from the EDA to establish a second site, the East Side Employment Training Center. We have in our existing signature program, the Strong Future Youth Employment Program, where you'll hear that over 200 youth a year are being provided career exploration, career development, and actual jobs. In recent years, we have credentialed youth in cybersecurity with wages as high as $35 to $50 an hour as a result of the training they completed with support from this municipality and others. You'll also note that there is a focus on upskilling, whereas a commitment to ensuring that folks not only get employment but advance in it. We have partnered with our Human Resources Department here to pilot upskilling even among individuals who began their first opportunity here with the city and other places. It's also important to note, and I alluded to this earlier, that we are co-convening a group around disconnected youth and their needs. And so you heard me say that it's a reference to individuals 16 to 24 who are not in school or not working. I hope you also heard me say that that's over 44,000 young adults in our community. Typically, when we hear disconnection, we think that we're talking about folks dropping out of high school. Indeed, nearly 6 out of 10 of those individuals actually completed high school. And so the disconnect is helping them find their way after they've graduated from high school to a real opportunity. And so we hope that you will also consider for your respective bodies how you might partner in that work, because the need is great. You'll also see here where we've not only, as I alluded to earlier, partnered with PBS to not only leverage their catalog, but something called Jobtimize, where we have integrated as a part of the support we provide here at the municipality, partnering to provide free placement in the portal as employers, also encouraging job seekers to participate in that portal so that we can make strong matches. And so we're beginning to see folks hired through that process. You'll also note here the Career Connections Hub, which is significant. Currently at the historic West Side School, we have established an employee envy office to leverage the services provided by the public workforce system and some of the system's mandated partners like DeWitt. Recognizing that even greater integration is needed and the ability to co-locate for success, we propose to go beyond the co-location that is happening now, where we have employee envy, we have DeWitt on campus, we actually have EOB providing housing assistance to individuals a few steps away, to leveraging the fact that across the street from there will be workforce housing in the next 36 months. The WETC or West Side Education Training Center, a stone's throw away, to ask if we were able to get every domain or partner at the table that impacts a career pathway, whether that's housing, food security, employment, training, or other opportunities. How might that look? The city has made a strong investment through a capital project to establish one such hub. So to go beyond to the co-location that is already happening there, to ask how would it look if instead of asking someone to walk out the door and go down to actually go a desk away and get connected to the services they need. Senator
Dr.
Neal?
Tyler, can you say what DeWitt is?
Department of Welfare and Supportive Services. That's the gentleman that presented before my presentation. And so I think I should clarify, because there was a significant movement about 3 years ago to have the system be one brand, because folks felt like they were being sent to 20,000 places, but we were all federally mandated to work together. What you'll see typically, depending on who you're talking to, is folks speaking to that one brand, Employee MV. But Employee MV is a reflection of a collection of partners. There are actually 17 mandated partners. WIO is one of those 17. DeWitt is another of the 17. Vocational Rehabilitation, which provides targeted services for workforce development services for folks with special needs, is yet another. Job Corps is one of those mandated partners. So if we were able to focus on physical or remote integration even more deeply, we could get to a place as a community where all 17 of those partners could be braiding fundings in one location. And so we're striving to get there. And so while we don't hang the whisk on the outside of the door at the Employee MB Hub, when you walk through that door, our hope is that you'll get connected to one of the 17 of those partners to the extent that you need their particular support. And so there is some partnership happening there. The other thing to note as a part of this effort, and I'll go to the next slide after this, is that part of our work has been an expansion into adult workforce employment. The city has now doubled down in ensuring that not only are our youth getting their first opportunity or a sound foundation, but working with that whole household to make sure that they are supported to be independent. About 2 years ago, we were hosting a resume workshop and some skill building and had parents showing up to take the resume class. And noted as a part of that, that clearly if folks were willing to attend with their sons and daughters to get that information, there must be a need for the information. And that prompted the department to expand to including adult workforce development services, where we're also partnering with the public workforce system to avail not only that full array of resources, but as a part of our vision for the work have said, we will commit to supporting this community to ensure that there are viable, livable wage jobs for individuals that not only allow them to meet their basic needs, but that recognize the changing winds of this work, which includes the state being at a state housing rate of $27.99 an hour, which means that you need to earn about $28 an hour just to maintain an apartment here, and what that means for us. In a public workforce system that may say that we meet performance if we've gotten someone $16 an hour. So we're strategically looking at that kind of work. To continue this discussion about some of the initiatives underway just in the last 24 months alone, I can tell you there's been a significant investment through the vision and leadership of our council and leadership team to include a focus on entrepreneurship, where not only are we helping businesses in the historic West Side and other areas, but also youth expand their ability to provide services and goods in our communities as a part of that process. We're excited to report that over 100 businesses in the last 12 months alone were supported to get licensing compliant, but also provided an array of professional development that included a focus on operations, human resources, financing as a part of that work in partnership with others, as well as all of the areas that you need to attend to, not just while you're working in your business, but working to build your business as a part of that process. We follow suit subsequent to that first exceptional cohort to include a cohort of youth where they were recently at their pitch contest awarded investments in their businesses. And so we are excited to say that as with these preliminary results, folks are already securing contracts, including some with the city. Some of those businesses worked or had contracts during the Super Bowl period and are continuing to grow their business, have even signed up for other advanced programs like the Accelerator program. And so thankful not only for the investments made there, whether it's partnering with Nevada Grow and others to support business development and growth, but the ways in which we've even seen some of the businesses that walked through the door last spring now have physical locations when they didn't before. And so significant gains made there as a part of the work. I'll just note two other things, because I know that I'm running short on time and could talk about this work for a while with each of you and welcome any questions you may have about the work. But it's important to note that thinking through not only how we help individuals change the trajectory, there's been a commitment to how we change the trajectory of the community by making sure that the infrastructure it needs is in place. And so it's important to note that we're in the process of implementing what's called Asset Advanced Connectivity for Communities and Economic Development. You've already seen glimmers of it. So during the pandemic, when the schools shut down, the city established a closed network to ensure that youth can go online and still connect to their educational programming. We are expanding that to include a focus on workforce content. and so have ordered the materials to establish a focus on a closed network on workforce development in partnership with folks like PBS, CSN, and others, and anyone willing to provide workforce development content that will help folks get jobs, and have expanded it to not only include the west side, historic west side, but also the east side and other adjacent communities as a part of recognizing that in this day and age where they are doing virtual interviews and hiring fairs, that the digital divide is compounding in our communities that do not have access. And so have personally, in partnership or with resources from the EDA, taken up the charge of ensuring that the connectivity needed to really be viable and marketable here is present for every segment of our community as a part of that process. And so with that said, I think that one other thing that I would note here, because I've talked about the historic West Side School Employee MB campus, of course, a signature program is that Strong Future Technology Training Center, where we benefited from the support and vision of our councilmen and others, as we talk about making sure that our youth are armed with IT skills and fully rooted in that emerging sector. But also want to note that we continue our commitment to responding to the needs of our most vulnerable citizens. And so we also have a special partnership with Workforce Connections and iFoster, a nationally recognized foster program providing workforce development opportunities for former system impacted youth as a part of that process. I think my next slide might just give you a snapshot of some of the impact. And so I'll give you a moment just to scan that, but just want to note that from a program that began by just sharing things like time management or problem solving or communication skill, focus on soft skills development, we've really grown to ask ourselves, what role could we play in this ecosystem? What could we arm youth and adults with that would really make a difference, not for just the time they were with us, but for the course of their life as a part of that process? And how do we as a municipality really own the fact that we are in it to make life better for everyone, and that we can play a prime role in ensuring that the infrastructure that is needed to support real pathways are in place, and that is happening now. Questions for me, because I know that was a lot.
Thank you, Dr. Tyler. Any questions? Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay, members still.
Dr. Tyler, thank you so much for coming up. Your understanding of all the different programs, especially just the breadth of programming, is outstanding. It's good to hear about all the different programs going on. In your analysis, what would you say are some of the more successful programs that, from an impact standpoint, are reaching the most individuals and have a long-lasting impact on those individuals?
I would definitely say our career development piece and our small business resources support pieces. And so you may recollect that we recently held an inaugural micro business summit where you supported as a panelist around financing to see, to begin with over 80 businesses that fall, have folks sign up for your accelerator program, where I believe approximately 48% of the participants in that program right now were folks that came through the BOSS program, to then have those individuals show up on a Saturday to get resources and see them already getting contracts, or the youth that are pitching and have already bought and sold services or goods through their businesses, says so much to me, because we recognize that workforce development alone can't provide or give a person a job. If we're not doing that in partnership with economic development or businesses, there aren't jobs to be had. To get to a place where we could empower residents, including youth, to be employers in a workforce program where historically we focused on just getting people jobs, says so much about the possibilities. Of course, I would be remiss if I did not say the fact that there has been a youth workforce development program around for over a decade in the city, and that they've expanded that, and when they had an opportunity to leverage federal funding to expand it, they did, and began paying for even more internships and stackable credentialing while that resource was on the table, is evidence of not only its demonstrated ability to move the needle in terms of making sure you don't get disconnected, but the fact that they had their eye on the prize to the point that they were seeking opportunities to leverage additional funding for it says a lot about a commitment to sustainability. And as someone who worries what will happen when folks leave my desk. And so like they're the things that I could give someone when they are there. And then there's my hope that they never have to come back to a desk like mine, right? Because whatever I gave them, put them on the path, and they can now lead the church for the rest of their life. The fact that the work is happening in the ways that it is, and the impact that is happening for job seekers and businesses, I think is the most powerful testament to it, that now the system is almost becoming self-perpetuating in some ways.
Okay.
Speaking of worry, I have, what worries me most about workforce development is so much effort put into training without actual end user, actually getting a job. And so what would you say are the areas in which there are the greatest impact? So not just the training component, but the actual, the person is actually securing a job at the end of that, a high-paying job or a good-paying job at the end of that training. Because I'm always thinking about, if there's an investment in dollars going into different programs, you want to see that end result, right? And so, can you identify you highlighted some of the employers, the large employers that are here. Can you highlight some of the successful end results of individuals getting jobs, and from a numbers standpoint, where are you seeing in our region that employment going?
So a couple of things come to mind as I consider that. One, the fact that some of those businesses that went through that first cohort are already in a position where they've called us and asked if we had some folks for them to hire, and they did, says something about the impact of that work. The fact that we have now began matching employers with job seekers, another tangible example of it. The fact that they went from unpaid internships to over 300 served last summer, tangible impact. The fact that we as a municipality not only are doing this work internally, but we actually are members of the Governor's Workforce Board on Barriers in Underserved Communities, where we're specifically looking at unemployment for African American males 16 to 24 in the South as a part of that process, and have determined that the unemployment rate among them was 29%, which was the same rate unemployment was during the Great Depression, and they had prioritized responding to reduce that. For me, is a tangible sign of that. The fact that we are co-leading the Disconnected Youth Initiative, and over the course of that 12 months, went from like 6 people in the room to 45 at the last convening last month, and are now partnering with one of the trades to look at a pre-apprenticeship to get a pipeline going there, are examples for me. In terms of hard numbers, I can provide those to you, and if you're looking for what it is anecdotally, like what's the thing that stands out in my mind in terms of examples of that, and I'm asking because I want to make sure I respond to your question. Whether it was the recent story about the young person at $35 an hour, or the one at 50, where I thought maybe I'm in the wrong work if someone got a stackable credential in a couple of weeks and did it, for me were signs.
Dr. Tyler, I'm almost positive Member Steele would love to get that data from you. Okay. So if you can turn over the hard numbers, that would be super helpful, because I'm sure everybody saw the story in the paper where millions of dollars have been spent and very low numbers have actually secured jobs or careers, right? And so if anyone's interested, the next interim revenue meeting at the state is going to deeply delve into that conversation through all the workforce agencies and get an answer.
Oh,
so
awesome.
Put that on your agenda for April.
Well,
thank you.
Know that we welcome any questions about ROI, and it's at the center of the work for us. When we say we will begin with the end in mind, we really do. So it isn't just a discussion of what can we pull together, hodgepodge, or who might be at the table now. It's with the vision of ensuring that folks are really empowered and that the trajectory changes. And so it's not uncommon for us to have conversations like, hey, why aren't we seeing more of a return? And how might things like benefits cliffs be impacting this work? Are there ways in which we disincentivize engagement or participation? And so when I hear something like, for example, in the case of SNAP ENT, it happens under DeWitt. About a year or so ago, they made a commitment to, for any individual that committed to going to training or got employment, that they would pay for childcare a year off the bat. The fact that the system is now operating in such a way that they're partnering that way, for me says that we're going to see an even greater return. So while I can't speak to what the whole ecosystem is doing, we can give you numbers on the municipality's investment. And I will say, as someone who has been troubled over the years by the public workforce system, but with the expertise to evaluate it, that I feel like there are a number of promising things happening right now, even as we break ground in the next couple of weeks on the West Side Employment and Training Center.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Any additional comments? Thank you, Dr. Tiffany Tyler Garner, for your presentation. We really appreciate it, and we will definitely have follow up with Member Steele, and you're free to come to that little interim revenue meeting. Put you on the list.
Thank you.
So with that, we will close, and then we will go to agenda item number 8, which is our last item before another public comment. We have presentation by Miles Dixon, Chief Executive Officer and President of Nevada Grant Lab, regarding the Southern Nevada Regional Coalition's application to the U.S. Economic Development Administration, EDA, Distressed Area Recompete Pilot Program. He's just here to give us a quick conversation about why we did not successfully move forward.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Miles Dixon, CEO of Nevada Grant Lab. I heard quick twice, Chairwoman, so I'm going to do my best for that. If you want to go back, I'm going to skip over a few slides to keep this quick, but if anyone would like to go back for recaps, just let me know at the end. Really quickly, by way of introduction, Nevada Grant Lab is a nonprofit. We support fellow nonprofits, public agencies, local and state governments as they apply for and administer federal funds. We do that through 4 different programming areas. In this case, we supported the EDA Recompete Pilot Program application. We facilitated the process, and ultimately we also wrote the application. So that was our role in this. I'm going to actually skip over this, Chair. This is just a quick recap of the program. I do want to flag, because I know part of this conversation is about, so how didn't we win? Why don't we win? And I want to flag the selection criteria down below. In any federal grant application, or I should say in most any federal grant application, the agency will tell you very specifically what it's looking for. So here are the 6 categories that this application and every other application around the country was scored on. I think that's pretty relevant to thinking about why didn't we win. This was the plan. I'm not going to go over it. Suffice to say, it was around a workforce pipeline that proactively recruits unemployed individuals and prepares them through training and career services and places them in good jobs. There were about 11 named partners spread across from jurisdictions to nonprofits, public agencies, et cetera, and the request amount was for $54 million. I do want to note this was a 2-phase competition, and so I'm going to talk about how we didn't get out of phase 1, but I do want to flag, just because we didn't get out of phase 1 ultimately wouldn't have meant we were getting out of phase 2 anyway. So with that, I think one of the most straightforward ways to think about why didn't we win is because 90% of people didn't. So this was the most competitive EDA program in agency history. 565 applications from across the country. 225 were for recompete plan approval. That was in the competition we were in. There were 22 approved. That's phase 1. At the end of phase 2, so who actually gets implementation funding, it's going to be 4 or 5. So it's going to be a 2% win rate. Down below, strategy development grants, there were 340 applications nationwide, 24 were approved, so it was a 7% win rate. That came with an immediate award. EDA, I think much to its credit, did a fantastic job providing debriefing materials. They did a webinar back in January for all applicants nationwide. It was an hour long. There's a link in here if you happen to access it. If not, I'm happy to get it to you. But it was a really excellent conversation around this program, but I think a lot of their comments were relevant for other federal programs, especially EDA-oriented ones. So I'm not going to belabor what they've shared other than to say it matched up those 6 criterion you heard earlier. They went criterion by criterion and explained what they thought made a really strong application and where they saw material weaknesses in the pool that wasn't awarded. So it's a great resource as we look at and think about how to make more competitive applications in the future. EDA was also kind enough, thanks to Senator Cortez Masto's office, to provide a individual debrief to our coalition. So this was a courtesy debrief that EDA gave on request and through the senator's office. These are some of the feedback points that they provided. I want to highlight just a few, but I'm happy to talk more detailed about what they told us. But I want to highlight just a few right up top. First, strong baseline for community needs, thoroughly demonstrated distress. This was a program about serving communities that have experienced severe and persistent economic distress. EDA's feedback to us was that we did an effective job of making that case. They also acknowledged our focus on narrowing the geographic focus of this application. EDA took a pretty extraordinary step in the Recompete program, which is they pre-designated eligible regions or areas around the country. We were one of the largest and most populous regions in the entire country that was designated, so let me say that differently. In some places, it may have looked like a few zip codes or a few census tracts. In Southern Nevada, it looked like the entire metropolitan statistical area. 2.3 million people who were eligible for this program. We were one of the largest and most populous regions in the entire country to qualify in total under the distress criterion. So one of our biggest challenges from an application standpoint was narrowing down who would be served. EDA acknowledged that they agreed with, or at least I shouldn't say agreed, they appreciated our ability to get down to a focused total target population. I don't remember the number off the top, but I think we were at about 44,000 people of 2.3 million. So this was very focused, and SNEC was the priority area within that. SNEC and 4 other census tracts around the housing authorities, Hampton Court property in Henderson. I think the other thing that was really important to us, not just for this grant, but for others, is to understand EDA's perception of anything that may support hospitality jobs. As you all know, hospitality jobs in Southern Nevada are different, especially when they're union, than hospitality jobs in many places in the country. And so a persistent concern for many of us around anything that includes hospitality is wanting to confirm that EDA understands these jobs can in fact meet its definition of good jobs, which includes compensation as well as benefits. They affirmed that, and they also recognized the value of potentially doubling down on a growing sector. We thought that was really important. What could we have done better? I think more specificity around how the program would be implemented would have really helped us. I will say EDA's take was that we had a really strong application. We just didn't have a strong enough application. I think more specificity, especially around governance and leadership structure, who would be leading implementation. I think if we had named specific service providers on outreach, that could have helped us. And I also think more definitive employer partnerships. I think, Member Steele just mentioned this, is kind of end user. From another perspective, the end user is the employer. So being able to have very definitive commitments from employers that we could have referenced within the application, I think would have helped us do better. Finally, we did ask about the competition structure. This allowed for entities or eligible applicants to apply for a strategy development grant or a plan or both. We encouraged, Grant Lab encouraged this region to focus just on one. So in our debrief with EDA, we asked about that. Ultimately, what EDA said was applicants either won with a plan approval or didn't. So having a strategy grant sit alongside our plan approval would not have made a difference. Having said that, one thing they did acknowledge is that having both may have increased the likelihood that we won a plan grant. I want to acknowledge the tension in that. This is part of choice making when we are applying for a big grant. If you put two options on the table, one is worth 50 million or more, one is worth 300,000 or more, we believe we create a scenario where you ultimately get the potential of a consolation prize in the smaller grant. Here, we didn't get either, we only applied for one. So I just want to acknowledge the tension in that strategy, but confirm that EDA was very explicit. Having won a strategy grant would not have better positioned us for any future application. And having a strategy development grant would not have positioned us better to win the recompete plan approval in this round. When we asked Mr. Andes, who ran the Build Back Better competition as well as recompete, so two of the three largest EDA programs in modern history, if he had any advice for our region, given that we lost two Build Back Better applications and we lost recompete, his advice was consider how much time it is worth to build a $100 million idea and invest accordingly. Having read several of these applications now, I can tell you the regions who seem to have worked together for a longer period of time were able to offer more specificity in the form of what's the governance structure? What are your specific targets? What employers are on board? What match funding will you bring to the table? What are the other public fundings that align to this? So I think that that sort of longer runway to get a big project like this off the ground and a great application is certainly something that I think we're feeling pretty strongly about at Grant Lab at this point, is these really large competitions, we're just not gonna win with 90 days. I wanna move on and flag, while we talk a lot about these big, shiny competitions, appropriately so, every single day there are tens of millions or hundreds of millions of federal grant investment available for issues, whether it's in workforce development, healthcare, education, et cetera, things that can benefit this community, this region. Want to flag a few of those really quickly. First, recompete pilot program, the one we just talked about, is authorized for 5 years. Unfortunately, is only funded for 1 year. So it was only funded last year. The president has in his budget $41 million to continue it. That would, as I understand it, would continue it at a lower level if it is actually approved. So as of now, one round. There is an EDA Public Works and Economic Assistance Program. I know the City of Las Vegas, as well as CSN, has had some success in bringing resources to the community using that program. Just to flag, there are 3,000 awards every single year. So we should be really thrilled that we're seeing 2 or 3 awards in this region, and then we should double it quickly. This is a program that has a lot more capacity than I think we're fully utilizing. EDA planning and technical assistance, so the sort of grant that could have paid for the work that we talked about as maybe a strategy development grant here. There are 350 to 500 awards. They're up to 300,000, and to the best of my knowledge, there's not been a single recipient in this region in the last few years. So that's something that we can apply for. It's going to be way lower level of competition. Community project funding, want to quickly flag. It is open season community project funding that is congressionally directed one-time short-term funds where your local members of Congress can help direct funding. That is an easier pathway to accessing money. So that's a great opportunity. And finally, I brought copies. One of the things we hear a lot at Grant Lab is from organizations saying, I don't know how to find a grant. And so this year we put together a whole guide to 50 federal grant opportunities that are either unutilized or underutilized in Nevada. They're organized around healthcare and workforce and education, because the idea that we are essentially foregoing on 50 of the largest federal grant programs in this region and in the state doesn't make sense, I think, to any of us. So we thought we'd try to help folks find them by just putting it together in an easy guide. Jer? That was my version of quick. I hope it worked. Hope it was quick enough.
It was. Members, any questions on recompete? Okay, seeing no questions. I mean, I'm sure I have one, but I can ask offline. Because I know members have something at 5, which includes me. So thank you for giving us part of your time. Also working on the grant. I know you were stressed out while we all put our fingers into this grant. And we will continue to try to focus our efforts on trying to get a grant for this community. And so thank you for coming.
Thank you.
All right, so that moves us to agenda item number 9, which is the citizens' participation. This is where we take our final public comment on anything that you would like to discuss or anything you'd like to bring up to us. Is there anyone that wants to come up for public comment? Okay, seeing no one coming up for public comment, we will go to agenda item number 10, which is adjournment.